Medina, historic heart of Marrakesh, UNESCO World Heritage Site. As you can see, there is rubble all around me here, and in amongst the rubble, these pieces of cultural heritage. If we can pan the camera up, Paul, to show you the minaret. This is the Jamal Al Fna Mosque. Minaret entirely crumbled due to the force of the earthquake. And yet you have this strange juxtaposition in this square, which you'll be familiar with if you've ever visited Marrakesh. In the restaurants and bars all around the main square, tourists are coming out, drinking coffee, and yet go a little further beyond the city walls, all around the grassy areas, five-a-side football pitches. People have been camping out overnight. They're packing up their belongings, but they aren't sure whether it's safe to go home because they're still afraid of aftershocks. We were just speaking to a British couple who described the moment when the quake struck on Friday night. They said they weren't sure if there'd been some kind of terror attack. The walls started shaking, cracking. They dived under the bed for shelter, and then everybody came out onto the streets. But they've also been saying they aren't getting any advice. They want to help those who are affected. They don't know what to do, where to go. They're waiting for their flights home. The emergency services, the search and rescue teams, are focusing on those remote areas up in the Atlas Mountains around the epicenter of this quake, where the majority of deaths occurred and where they're still hoping to reach survivors who might be trapped under the rubble. According to the Red Cross, the next 24 hours will be absolutely vital in reaching any survivors who remain. We've just been speaking to some people as well who say they have friends who are trying to drive out there, but the rescue efforts are made more difficult due to the remoteness. The roads, some of them are blocked. There have been landslides, entire villages flattened. You can see as well, some people are coming out looking for their missing animals. Although here in Marrakesh, the very limited death toll, we're also hearing stories of hope from footballers who are coming out to donate blood to help the thousands of people who've been injured, who are waiting for treatment in hospitals, and others who are traveling from all around the country to try and do something to help those thousands of people who've been affected by this quake.
Anna, what are the authorities saying about how much support there is, how they're managing to cope with the huge numbers in hospitals, and also trying to reach those, as you say, in very remote areas, because this earthquake impacted a huge swathe of the country, didn't it?
Exactly. The military has been deployed. It's hard to say how much of that support is actually getting through to these villages. We've heard from people in some of the affected communities who say they've seen no sign of any rescue teams at all. It's neighbours helping each other. We've heard that people are having to carry their parents to makeshift graves in order to bury them because the search and rescue teams, the support simply isn't able to get through. So it's a mixed picture. We're also hearing from the international community. So British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has said that a team is ready to go to provide support. US President Joe Biden has also offered support. It's hard to tell exactly what's needed, though, until they're able to establish the full extent of the damage, and that will require the teams locally to be able to reach these most affected communities where it's thought hundreds of people are still trapped. We've heard from a father who said he could hear his children crying out from beneath the rubble. 24 hours to 48 hours, according to the Red Cross, will be absolutely vital now if those people are to be brought to safety. And then the cleanup can really begin. In terms of what's happening here in the Medina, businesses are reopening. People have been sweeping the streets. You can hear there are some rubbish trucks coming to collect the debris. They're also bringing bricks and pieces of rubble from across the centre and putting them here. There's also, if we can perhaps just pan around, some scaffolding being erected on the other side of this barrier, one of the souks, all of the electric cables have collapsed down. A lot of the walls in the hotels have cracked, and people are afraid to go home. They're afraid to go back into their hotels. And they say they aren't actually getting enough information from the authorities on what they can do to help themselves, but also to help the people who are really in those worst affected areas up in the Atlas Mountains.
Okay.